Hi everyone, it's Rose Parker, and today we are going to talk about schizophrenia and boundary experiences. So I got some of the information for this from The Gift of Therapy, an open letter to a new generation of therapists and their patients by Dr. Irvin D. Yalom, a very famous psychotherapist. Now, what exactly is a boundary experience? A boundary experience is an experience that pushes you from ordinary existence into a state where you're thinking about existence itself and sort of the bare basics of life and existential meaning, that sort of thing. And as I was reading the chapters on boundary experiences in The Gift of Therapy, they focus on death. It made me think a lot about how schizophrenia and how schizophrenia pushes you into boundary experiences at various times. Now, having had schizophrenia for so long, I have had a lot of experiences with being pushed into this boundary zone, and it's in various mechanisms. I guess the first and most obvious would be direct experiences with being near death. The most stark, I guess, would be being acutely suicidal. I have been suicidal many times in my life. I had chronic suicidality for about 10 years, from about age 10 to age 20, and that was sort of a constant boundary experience because I felt, in addition to feeling between the two worlds of schizophrenia and reality, which I'll get to in a minute, I felt a constant, I don't know how long I'm going to be here. I don't know how long I'm going to really hang around. I don't know if I'm really going to make it past high school, if I'm going to really make it past college. And that sense of chronic suicidality, of not knowing if you're really going to make it to full adulthood, sort of makes every day feel a bit on edge and gives a sense of impermanence to daily life. And I think that should be kind of obvious. And having survived a suicide attempt, it makes it feel much more real that you can go there, that you can do that. And having done self-harming behaviors, it makes it feel closer, like, okay, I've taken this step, I can take another. Maybe it wouldn't be that hard to go one step farther. And it sort of pushes your mind into the idea that my death isn't so far away. This is actually much closer than most people realize. And then on to what I was talking about in the previous section, with the feeling as though you are on the boundary between hallucinatory reality and regular reality, shared reality. For me, my schizophrenia has been a constant sense of a disturbed self, where I am on the boundary between a hallucinatory or psychotic reality and shared reality. I don't feel as though I really belong to one world or the other. And for me, there is this sense that I am walking a tightrope, that I am living in a balancing act, that if I do get one step too far in either direction, I will fall into a hole I can't get out of. And I described this in one of my posts. There's sort of two ways I experience this. There's the sort of 1 foot in, 1 foot out path, but there's also the front and back of my head. I feel this somatically as well as sort of metaphor, as well as sort of as a metaphor. In my head, it feels like I am stored in the front of my head. The conscious rose, the stable rose, is stored in the front of my head, and that's where my voluntary conscious thoughts are. But in the back of my head, towards the occipital lobe, that's where the psychosis lies, especially the dark psychosis. And that my involuntary thoughts, my thought insertions, my internal voices are the psychosis trying to get back. And I have to keep the front part, the frontal lobe, in charge of the occipital lobe, or else I will get into a psychotic episode. And that sense of push and pull within my body is a constant sense of that I am here, that I am alive, that I am within reality. And that also, you also get the sense that you have to stay aware and alert and be mindful of your contact, of just your awareness. Just be aware. You just have to be in touch with your awareness and in touch with how you are perceiving and how you are thinking if you are to monitor your psychotic episodes. Like right now, the room's kind of dark because it's sunset and I see the shadows moving and it's very distracting. And I'm hyper aware of it, and I'm also aware of the fact that I'm aware of the shadows moving. So I'm sort of in this, so I am sort of having this boundary experience right now that I am aware of the shadows moving, and I am aware of the fact that I could go into worse psychosis if I didn't turn on a light in a few minutes when I am done recording this. So it is a bit of a strange experience, but as you can see, because I hope you're seeing, when we have schizophrenia, we are constantly thrown into these boundary experiences. And in my post that I did on, I guess it will be 2 days ago when this comes out, or today, Wednesday, I talked about the distorted sense of self. I think part of that distorted sense of self has to do, we are always living a boundary experience. So we are always aware of our existence. So we have trouble attaching to a consistent time stream. We have trouble attaching to a consistent sense of place and time because we're always aware of our awareness and we're always aware of our sense of being and that we are. And we're just so hyper aware of what we are perceiving and what's going on in our world. We have trouble just being and focusing on here and now, and we get scattered and the sensory signals get jumbled. At least that's what I'm wondering. I don't know. That's my hypothesis. I think it's all very interesting, this philosophy of psychiatry. While I am very interested in psychiatry from the neurobiological standpoint, as you all know, I think it's very interesting to also look at it from this more phenomenological standpoint and also see how the various disorders look here. In the literature I read for the thought insertion and self-concept in schizophrenia post, the articles were talking about how this disturbed self-concept was a cardinal symptom of schizophrenia, but it was not seen in other psychotic disorders, which I thought was strange because it seemed to be to match things I had seen people with other psychotic disorders describe, and the sort of spectrum of psychosis was more along the lines of what the neurological research had described. So I thought that was all very interesting, how the research seems to conflict and how my anecdotal experience seems to conflict with the research. I definitely think this is an area in need of more neuroscience to back the phenomenological reasoning and anecdotal experiences, and it's just something that needs to be explored more in general as a community of science and the patient population. I think there's a lot we can learn about schizophrenia and the human brain in all its beauty in general here. Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed this podcast, and I will see you all later. Bye.